Hey everyone, we will be starting here within the next minute or so. So please hang tight and we'll get started shortly. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar From Vacancy to Vision, Proactive Succession Planning for Local Government. Next slide. I'm Morgan Belden, a program manager here at Institute for Local Government in our Workforce Development and Civic Education pillar. I'll be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Next slide, please. This is just a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. A quick welcome and introduction of our panelists. We'll hear presentations from our three panelists, then engage in a deeper discussion on this topic of proactive succession planning in local government. We plan to have dedicated time for audience Q&A towards the end of our webinar, so please use the Zoom Q&A feature to ask your questions. Then we'll wrap up and adjourn by 12:30. Next slide, please. Just a couple quick housekeeping notes. As you joined the webinar, you probably noticed that you are muted. Everyone will be muted throughout the duration of this webinar, just based on the size of the audience we're expecting. But that doesn't mean you can't ask us questions. At the bottom of the Zoom screen, you should see the Q&A box. Please feel free to ask questions at any point throughout today's webinar. We'll respond to anything technical or logistical. For the questions related to the webinar topic, we'll hold these and ask them near the end of our webinar during the audience Q&A portion. We are recording today's webinar and will distribute the recording along with related resources within the next few days. Next slide, please. Now, we're excited to kick things off with Erica Manuel, CEO and Executive Director of the Institute for Local Government. Erica will provide a brief overview of ILG's mission and work and set the stage for today's conversation. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Morgan, and hello, everyone. And thank you for joining our webinar on proactive succession planning. As Morgan said, I'm Erica Manuel. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of the Institute for Local Government, or ILG, and I am thrilled to welcome you to today's critical conversation about, I think it's an issue that's affecting local governments of all sizes and geographies. As many of us know, the public sector is facing a major shift. We've got waves of retirements, evolving community needs, and increasing competition for talent. So it's not really enough anymore for us to react when leadership gaps emerge. We have to plan for them before they happen. So succession planning, it's not just about filling vacancies, it's about building resilient, future-ready teams that really reflect your communities, that retain some of that institutional knowledge you've worked so hard to build, and really carry forward your mission with clarity and with confidence. And right now, I think you know that this work is more important than ever. We're really facing and navigating incredibly difficult budgetary environments, and that's all compounded by political uncertainty and shifting public expectations. These pressures can create some instability in our organizations, but they also highlight the need for steady, prepared leadership at every level of your local agency. So when you invest in succession planning, you're not only preparing for the future, but you're also safeguarding your ability to lead effectively today. So that we're going to explore today, like now, why more than ever it is time for us to prioritize this strategy and how you can turn that intention into action and really begin with something at all levels of your organization. And no matter what size jurisdiction you have, we'll have something for you. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the presentations and discussions, I have to always talk a little bit about the Institute for Local Government, just in case you found us by accident and you aren't familiar with us. Next slide talks a little bit about how we are the nonprofit affiliate of three organizations: the League of California Cities, the State Association of Counties, or CSAC, and the California Special Districts Association. Together with these local agencies, we provide practical and easy-to-use resources for local governments and their leaders so they can effectively implement policy on the ground. Very different from the advocacy work that those affiliate organizations do. We do the education and training to help you do that work. Once you're being told to do it, we tell you kind of how that might get done. Next slide. Our programs and services are pretty vast. We really do focus on helping local governments navigate complexity, increase their capacity, and build trust. Our program areas are listed on the left, and our services are listed on the right. Lots of ways we can work with you and your agency to support some of the needs that you have in a couple key areas around topics of usual interest and some stickiness with local agencies. The conversation we're talking about today is really going to be centered around a workforce development and civics education pillar, but it also touches on topics of leadership, right, and governance, and just really how you're engaging and connecting, even with your internal staff. Next slide. So I wanted to set the stage a bit before we dive into this incredible panel that we have. And I wanted to make sure we had some data to ground our work and provide some context for those of you that may not know all of the ins and outs of the local government landscape. Next slide. So as you may know, we are blessed to have a number of institutional partners in local government, including a number of research-based institutions that we work with, including academic institutions and more. And one group we really love and appreciate and work with is Mission Square. And they did a 2023 survey on state and local government employment trends. And that survey noted that 53% of respondents expect the largest potential retirements to take place over the next 3 years. Next slide. That next slide talks about we don't know exactly how the budgets are going to be impacted from the state and federal level over the coming years, but there's still some projected labor market growth through 2031. And we know that there's going to be some needs and a lot of changes in the way that our communities are going to need support. And the role of the local government sector is to address those needs. Next slide. Vacancies are continuing to rise in hard to fill occupations due to retirements and attrition. And you can just see on this slide the kinds of occupations that are really, really hard to fill. And we're going to find that institutional knowledge I talked about is waning, particularly as we see people with so many decades of experience transition out of the workplace. Next slide. We're also seeing a shift in the market with increasing resignations and separations. So above and beyond retirements, it's this resignations and separations number that's really complex, and I think where succession planning plays a role. 45% of agencies saw an increase in voluntary quitting, and that's really rare for local agencies that used to be the bedrock of sustenance of stability and really staying in service for many, many years. There's a lot more movement within agencies, and we have to plan for that. Next slide. The other thing we've got to plan for is that we can't underestimate the impact of generational shifts on retention levels. 6 out of 10 workers under the age of 35 are likely considering a job change in the future, and local governments are going to need to understand and plan for how best to continue to provide our critical services. And that's going to play a role, I think, in perpetuity. We've seen the changes that happened post-COVID, and we're starting to see this multi-generational workplace come into play that's really impacting all of the way that we do business. Next slide. We have an opportunity now to bridge the talent gap in local government, and there are tools that we can use to do these things effectively despite this ever-evolving landscape. There is definitely a succession challenge. I've outlined that, and that's really highlighted in this box here on the left. But there are also lots of, like I said, tools and opportunities we have in local government to address that, and I think that our panels are going to speak to some of those things. We've also got a big project that ILG's been working on and really diligently trying to build a model to scale local government apprenticeships in non-traditional occupations. Some of those hard to fill roles that you saw a couple slides up are really difficult spaces for us as local agencies to fill and fill fast and fill when we need them, right? Apprenticeships might provide that opportunity, and they offer a number of things like on-the-job training, internal talent development, upskilling, reskilling, early career recruitment, higher retention, and a faster time to fill, which could help address some of the very issues that we've been discussing. We're not going to dive too deeply into the apprenticeship space in today's webinar. We can certainly answer questions about it. We have lots of information on our website about our Bridge Apprenticeships program online. That being said, we do have an amazing panel who's going to discuss some of the other workforce solutions that may work as tools in that toolbox for local governments to support your goals. And as I mentioned earlier, we are blessed at ILG to have an incredible cadre of like-minded partners and experts who share the passion that we have, and I think supporting and elevating local government. Our amazing panel today is made up of some of those partners and practitioners, and Morgan's going to introduce them now. Morgan, back to you.
Thank you, Erica. Now, with that, I want to introduce our presenters. We're joined today by Frank Benest from ICMA, Kaitlyn Montez from the city of West Sacramento, and Lisa Yapching from the county of San Mateo. We really wanted to provide some different perspectives in today's discussion. Until August 2008, Frank served as the city manager of Palo Alto, California. Frank is a noted consultant and trainer on leadership development, talent retention, entrepreneurial government, and employee engagement and succession planning. Kaitlyn Montez is a human resource supervisor with the city of West Sacramento, where she leads strategic initiatives across compensation, talent acquisition, and workforce planning. And Lisa is the human resource division manager for the county of San Mateo, overseeing classification and compensation, and in the interim, the talent acquisition division with nearly 30 years of public service. Now, to help us lay the strategic foundation for today's conversation, Frank's going to kick us off by framing why succession planning must be treated as a leadership imperative and what local government can do right now to build that mindset into their organizations. Frank?
Great. Thank you, Morgan. I'm very pleased to join you. I'm very passionate about this topic of talent development. To get us started, next slide, please. To get us started, we're going to collect some data from you. So here's a polling question. What are the big talent challenges confounding your organization? And we'd like you to choose two of those: attracting talent, finding qualified candidates for hard to fill positions, retaining your talent, remaining staff are overwhelmed given the vacancies, offering a range of career development programs, and getting people ready for leadership positions. So if you please respond now, and we'll see what the landscape is out there among those of you participating in this webinar. Select two choices. Once we get the great majority of respondents, please show our responses, please. Okay. The big winners here are finding qualified candidates for hard to fill positions, and you saw some of the data from Mission Square about some the hard to fill positions in local government. And then we have several that are close behind: retaining our talent, remaining staff are overwhelmed given the vacancies affecting our productivity, and then getting people ready for leadership positions. Great. Okay, that sort of sets the stage for us. Next slide, please. As indicated by the previous slides shown by Erica, we're in a war for talent, and we're losing the war. Local government, of course, is a service and knowledge enterprise. It's all about talent. Talented employee, the big problem is talent is mobile. Talented employees can leave anytime and find a better job. In the past, we've relied on poaching talent from other agencies, but that's become very problematic, and we can no longer rely on stealing talent from other local governments. To make matters worse, with the significant staff churn that many local governments are experiencing, the remaining employees are feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. Most importantly, and I really want to stress this as we go along, winning the war for talent is more about organizational culture than about money. Now, certainly, local government agencies must pay competitively. However, you're not going to win the war for talent on money. Organizational culture trumps everything. Next slide, please. Now, I've spent a lot of time consulting with local governments regarding succession planning. And by the way, I prefer the term succession development as opposed to planning. Planning won't get you anyplace. It's all about succession development. And as I've worked with other local governments, I've discovered and identified 6 classic mistakes. So let me run quickly through the mistakes and suggest some remedies. Mistake number 1, as I mentioned, is relying solely on competition to win the war for talent. Talented professionals will tend to stay with you as long as they are learning and growing. So as you focus on culture, you really need to emphasize sort of a learning and growing culture. Learning has become the new social glue. If you want to create stickiness for your talent, you need to focus on learning and growing. Mistake number 2 is focusing on position replacement. You don't want to fixate on who will be the next finance director. That's position replacement. Rather, you want to develop a pool of talent ready and able to move into a variety of positions. In other words, you want to create a leaderful organization, that you have leaders at all levels. You want to develop leaders at all levels who can exert positive influence. So again, it's more about creating a pool of talent, not replacing particular leaders. Next slide, please. The third mistake is putting all the attention on known stars. Your A players are free, what the literature calls free exiters. They can readily leave. They can freely leave your organization at any time. And what you really want to do is pay attention to high potentials and B players who really run the organization, that you can count on. And in doing so, you want to emphasize soft skills. When ICMA, the California affiliate of the International City County Management Association, when they did all their survey and focus group work for the talent initiative, all the respondents emphasized that the #1 development need of emerging leaders in local government are soft skills, leadership and communication skills. And so that's why a lot of agencies are involved in leadership academies focused on soft skills. It's the soft skills that produce the hard results. Mistake number 4 is overemphasizing classroom education and training. Typically, we send people to seminars and webinars and workshops. The problem is workshops and other trainings, they provide a conceptual framework for new behavior, but they do not create new behavior. The only way to create new behavior is to apply what you've learned. So what the data suggests is that the best kind of learning is learning by doing, coupled with helpful and candid coaching. So 2 elements are required to accelerate your learning. Learning by doing, coupled with helpful and candid feedback and coaching. So in terms of learning by doing, you want to provide stretch assignments, acting or interim positions, team leadership opportunities, job rotations, and or leadership opportunities in professional organizations, all coupled with helpful and candid coaching. Now, the ideal mix is 70-20-10. The ideal mix of development is 70-20-10. 70% of your efforts to develop people should be on learning by doing, 20% should be coaching, and only 10% should be formal classroom training or education. That's the ideal mix of development. Next slide, please. Mistake number 5 is offering only a limited targeted number of development opportunities. So as a remedy, you want to create a menu of development opportunities available in your agency or available on a regional basis or some statewide or national training programs. So you want a full menu of development opportunities. Some are intense and require a lot of resources, and other are not. So for instance, while you may have a leadership academy, which is very intense, you also want to offer lunch and learns sessions, and anybody can join with their brown bag lunch and take advantage of the learning. So you want a full menu. Now, Cal ICMA, our talent initiative, has created a menu that you can customize. It's an online fillable form, which provides state, regional, as well as your local agency resources. And I'll mention that a little later. Mistake number 6 is not training managers on how to conduct development conversations. You can't really accelerate the development of folks unless they're having development conversations with their managers. So again, Cal ICMA has created a simple coaching model for managers, as well as a training video, and I'll mention that under resources as well. This is not brain surgery. It's an easy training for managers, but you have to do it. Next slide, please. Now, I've mentioned several times now, Cal ICMA, the California affiliate of the International City County Management Association. We've conducted over the past few years a talent initiative. And as a result of that talent initiative, we've created a suite of 4 talent development tools. Now, the first one is a template for talent discussions with your executive team. And this is an online fillable form, and I'll show you that in a few moments, plus a sample form, which will help you complete the template. This is where you can really get started. The second talent development tool is a menu of development opportunities. It's an online fillable form that can be customized for your agency. The third one is a coaching model for managers on how to conduct a development conversation with a direct report. And there's also a training video available online on how to conduct a development conversation. And that's available on the Talent Initiative webpage. And then number 4 are stay interviews related to retaining your talent. So this is a list of stay interview questions that managers could have with their direct reports, plus a case study of how those stay interviews can promote employee retention. And all of those are available at calicma.org/talent development. Next slide, please. Now, as I mentioned, you may want to get started by having a talent discussion with your executive team. So to give you a sense of those discussions, here's a screenshot of a portion of the online fillable form completed by department heads. This one is completed by the finance director, and the finance director has identified a talented staff person, Carolyn Brooks, who's the revenue officer. And then there's a drop-down list of how ready is Carolyn, and it's either she's ready now, or she's available. She's ready in 1 to 3 years, or available in 3 to 5 years. It also identifies some of her current strengths to leverage: excellent writing skills, outgoing personality, and willing and able to take on projects for other departments. Next slide, please. Also, as part of the form are some areas for development, in this case, capital budgeting, presentation skills, and supervising staff. Next slide, please. And then another portion of this online fillable form are possible development activities. And so the finance director is suggesting that Carolyn attends the Santa Clara County Regional Academy, which is a regional leadership academy, that she participates in the ICMA coaching program, which I'll mention in a few moments, and to get a one-to-one coach. And then also to attend the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers Conference. So next slide, please. All of these Cal ICMA Talent Initiative resources are available on the Cal ICMA Talent Initiative webpage, and they include a summary of our Talent 2.0 report, the suite of the 4 talent development tools, and other resources related to this whole topic of succession development and talent development. And you can either go to that webpage link, or you can use the CR code on your right. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to end my presentation by focusing your attention on the ICMA coaching program, which is your go-to professional development resource available free of charge to all local government employees. We'll be sending out a flyer for the 2025 ICMA coaching program, but there's also this link to the coaching program webpage. And there are 3 elements to the coaching program. First of all, there are a series of live webinars. In fact, the one we held in March, on March 12th, was on this topic of succession planning, a guide to unlocking potential and preparing for leadership transitions. That webinar is available on the archives. All our webinars are available on the archives. And then we will hold a webinar on September 17th on how to make the successful transition into leadership. Also one on October 15th on proactive career development strategies. And then another webinar for the end of the year on November 19th on trends transforming the workforce and what you can't afford to overlook. Now, in addition to the live webinars and about 80 webinars on the archives that you can pull down as training resources, one of the key resources is one-to-one coaching. Now, again, I mentioned the best, if you want to accelerate the development of high potential employees, it's key to engage them in learning through doing, plus coupled with helpful and candid coaching. And everybody can get a one-to-one coach by going to the coaching program website, clicking on Coach Connect, which is an online registry of 300 senior leader coaches who are available, most of whom are available in California. And then people can review the registry of coaches, their profiles, and then through the platform connect with one or several coaches. And it could be for a one-time or periodic conversation or an ongoing relationship. And then finally, some of the resources that we'll provide as a follow-up are Career Compass advice columns that I write for the coaching program on leadership and career development topics. And it's like Dear Abby, but it's Dear Frank. And there are now 115 of these Career Compass columns on career development and leadership topics. So with that, I'll return the webinar back to Morgan. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, for framing the why. And now I'm really excited for Lisa and for her to jump in and tell us how jurisdictions can operationalize succession planning across departments.
All right. Thanks, Morgan. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm quite pleased to be following Frank's presentation because I feel like what I'm going to discuss with you today is like real life or real world examples or application of what Frank was talking to you about. And I know Kaitlyn, our third speaker, will also focus on this on a city level where I focus at a county level. I'd like to start my presentation with a simple question. What happens when a key leader or a key individual contributor in your organization leaves? Whether it's retirement or promotion or transition, that vacancy can disrupt teams, delay progress, and risk the loss of invaluable institutional knowledge. In my presentation today, I hope to partake with you how our county have built future-ready succession planning strategies grounded in the realities and opportunities of local government. First, for some context, San Mateo County is centrally located between San Francisco, San Jose, and the East Bay. With over 770,000 residents, it is one of the largest and most diverse counties in California. The county is responsible for the health and welfare of all people within its borders and serves as the local government for unincorporated areas. It has a budget of $4.9 billion and approximately 6,000 employees. As an employer, the county's mission is to hire, support, and retain employees who reflect our diverse community. Next slide, please. Succession planning is simply a proactive approach to ensure that we have the right people in the right roles at the right time. In our county, succession planning has become more than just a concept, it's a necessity. And I'm sure it's the same for all of your organizations, no matter the size. We have been rolling out strategies since the mid-2000s with the aim of ensuring continuity, preserving institutional wisdom, and aligning internal talent with the demands of tomorrow. But we face ongoing challenges: aging workforce, regulatory complexity, and uneven readiness across departments. Add to that, we have limited resources and the ongoing competition for talent. The good news is that there is a way to turn these risks into opportunities through a formal values-driven approach to succession planning. And I'll share with you how we are doing it in the county. Our strategy focuses on 5 interconnected pillars that support leadership development and organizational resilience. First, we focus on attracting future leaders, people who reflect the community we serve and bring diverse perspectives to public service. Next, we invest in developing internal leadership capacity, nurturing employees who already understand our mission. We prioritize engaging and retaining staff because employees are more likely to stay and grow when they feel seen, supported, and valued. We all know this. Knowledge transfer is another critical area because without capturing it, we risk losing decades of experience when someone walks out the door. And finally, all of this drives organizational effectiveness, our ability to meet public needs with confidence and clarity. I will spend the rest of my presentation describing our strategies under each of these pillars. I won't go over each of the strategy that's listed in the slides, but will highlight some important ones. Next slide. The first step to a successful succession planning strategy is to build a strong workforce by maximizing your ability to attract talent. We utilize a variety of recruiting strategies, but the one strategy I've found most important is creating and promoting a clear employer brand. In case you haven't noticed, my background here has our brand, Work with Purpose. It's a brand that reflects our values and resonates in both internal and external recruitments. This brand drives our social media, community outreach, and overall messaging. We have stiff competition for talent from the private sector, Silicon Valley, our neighbor, and larger counties around us. And I'll just be realistic, we offer competitive salaries, but our salaries are in the median of our market. It will never be competitive enough. So our Work with Purpose brand helps us to stand out and attract people who want meaningful work. We use our employees' voice and their stories to provide realistic view of the jobs we offer, the impact it has on society, and the intrinsic rewards it provides, such as sense of purpose, personal fulfillment, community, and belonging. People who understand and share our vision and mission tend to stay longer in their position. Another key strategy I want to highlight in this topic is streamlining the recruitment process. We're actively reviewing outdated civil service rules to improve efficiency and equity. We ask What steps add no value to the process, and can we remove it? What can we change to be more inclusive in our process? And more importantly, we always look inwards first. If we have internal talent ready to grow, why look outside? And if we don't have internal talent ready, why not? We also partner closely with our labor organizations in ensuring our job descriptions are representative of the work and that our job requirements are inclusive and accepting of alternative pathways to gaining knowledge and skills. Lastly, I'll just briefly mention internship and fellowship programs. I know many of you already use them. They remain essential for building future workforce pipeline. Right now, I'm working on opening up other internship pathways. Often we focus on school-based or age-specific internships, but how do we capture those who are maybe transitioning to a new career or older workforce who are looking to make meaningful contributions? In addition to traditional internships with schools, we also are, one of the things that we're doing is that we partnered with the Department of Defense, their Skills Bridge programs, which is to help transitioning military personnel. And we are exploring stronger partnerships with our local workforce development board, just so we have this connection, to strengthen our connection with the community. Next slide. Now you've hired talented employees. What is the next step? Well, the next goal is to help them grow and prepare them for advancements or for leadership roles. The county prides itself of having a robust portfolio of career development opportunities such as acting assignments, stretch projects, job rotations, as well as a wide range of learning programs, including leadership academies that Frank alluded to. And to reinforce our commitment to employee development, we have a 20-hour annual training guideline for all employees. We offer an intensive management development program and quarterly leadership forums to support our managers, while our Essential Supervisory Skills Academy is mandatory for all our supervisors. Furthermore, all new managers and supervisors receive 6 months of professional coaching. An initiative I'm particularly excited about is the work we are currently doing on career pathways, helping employees and applicants understand the many directions their careers can take within the county. We provide them information on what positions previous employees in their same role have transitioned to or promoted to, and help them evaluate the skills they will need to obtain to follow these career paths. Our upcoming new learning management system will further help us integrate learning, talent acquisition, and performance to grow career pathing efforts even further. Under Leadership Academies, I also want to just highlight the Talent Accelerator program we recently launched for line level staff, which also includes optional coaching for graduates. You have to remember, career mobility isn't always about promoting up. It could be sideways, it could even be backwards. It's important to also invest on the individual contributors, journey and entry-level staff, so early on they develop a vision for where they want their career in the organization to go. Next slide. So you've hired them, you're developing them. Now the next goal is to cultivate a workplace culture rooted in growth, belonging, and recognition, so that talented employees are encouraged to stay and do their best work. Exit and stay interviews are so essential to gaining actionable insights into employee satisfaction, retention drivers, and opportunities to strengthen workplace culture. It's important to understand why someone left, but equally important to know and understand why people are staying and build or adjust programs based on what you learn from these interviews. I recently helped a department conduct an exit interview, and the information we gathered helped us realize a bottleneck in the organization's ability to make decisions, layers upon layers of approval, and in the process, stripping managers of their authority and autonomy. It's important to have approvals, but ridiculous to have many layers of approvals that don't really add value. So we're making changes to that organization. We recognize the pivotal role of supervisors in employee performance and commitment, and that's why we invested in building supervisors' coaching capabilities, supporting their leadership development, and embedding talent management as a core responsibility for supervisors. Next slide. A key component of workforce and succession planning is, of course, preparing for retirements to minimize the loss of critical knowledge and institutional memory. We all know that succession planning is most effective when approached proactively, not reactively. This starts with candid, confidential conversations with employees and regular review of workforce demographics and HR metrics. We developed a workforce planning dashboard within our HRIS and published an annual countywide workforce planning report to help managers anticipate staff attrition and intimately understand the makeup of their workforce. We've also implemented a process for overlapping key roles when feasible, and we've created a succession planning guide to help departments identify critical functions, assess workforce composition, and develop equitable plans for future leadership. To retain access to institutional expertise, we maintain a retiree skills bank, which is basically a list of former and retired employees available for temporary and short-term work. And lastly, I want to emphasize the concept of organizational debt in context of transferring knowledge. An HR colleague of mine wrote a piece on this recently, which was published on LinkedIn. So organizational debt refers to the accumulation of outdated processes, structures, policies, or cultural norms that hinder an organization's agility and effectiveness over time. It's important to keep tabs of these debts as you are capturing and documenting knowledge during succession planning to ensure that what gets passed on is valuable, relevant, and future ready, not outdated or burdensome. So it does help to ask, why are we doing this as you're completing this step? Next slide. So we've come to the last of the 5 pillars of our succession effort, which is to sustain and elevate individual and organizational performance. This is the overarching goal of every workforce and succession management programs. The strategies I've outlined all contribute to building a high-performing organization. The strategy I want to emphasize here is our work around measuring performance. About 5 years ago, and to this day, we piloted, then implemented an alternative performance review system. We got rid of annual performance reviews and adopted a continuous coaching model built on 4 pillars: having regular one-on-ones, ongoing goal and development discussions, increasing recognition, and clearly defining expectations. This model is supported by monthly pulse surveys to assess employee experience in each of these areas. It transformed performance evaluation from transactional into having meaningful and timely conversations and celebrations of accomplishments. Now, it doesn't apply for all types of positions, but in general, it's the concept of ongoing feedback is very helpful. Finally, data analytics plays a critical role in workforce and succession planning by enabling informed strategic decisions. By analyzing data on demographics, turnover, skills gaps, and workforce composition, you can better anticipate future needs, mitigate risks, and align resources. A data-driven approach strengthens organizational agility and ensures workforce strategies support long-term success. Next slide. To make these pillars operational, we needed more than vision, we needed systems too. So we needed a learning system that focuses on training and knowledge sharing tools, a system to track development progress and workforce demographics to help us see pipelines, where pipelines are strong and thin, a system to give employees a voice, surveys, feedback loops from onboarding to exit, a system that supports leadership development with coaching, mentoring, and internal academies, and finally, a system that helps us monitor career mobility and retiree engagement so that we can tap into institutional knowledge while also making space for new growth. Each of these systems links back to our strategic goals, and together they create a framework for sustainable succession planning. Next slide. And just quickly, what does success look like? How do we measure if our strategies worked? First, we look at how many key positions are filled internally. This tells us whether our pipelines and promotional hiring efforts are working. Currently, we're at a close to 70% promotion rate for management positions and 50% promotion rate for non-management positions. We also track how quickly we can fill leadership roles. A shorter time to fill often reflects greater preparedness. We're at 4 weeks for internal recruitment. Participation in development programs is another vital indicator. Retention of high potential employees gives us a clue. And finally, qualitative feedback on leadership effectiveness. These metrics aren't just numbers. They tell a story about how we're preparing for the future. Last slide. Succession planning is not a one-time event. It's a cycle of reflection, adjustment, and investment. Each year, we monitor progress and revise our approach if needed. We're expanding our use of data to make smarter, more informed decisions, and we are deepening partnerships with departments, recognizing that each has unique needs, structures, and cultures. The key is consistency. When we treat succession planning as an ongoing leadership responsibility, not just an HR project, we create an environment where potential thrives and transitions don't feel like a crisis. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to pass it back on to the host. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for showing how scalable and structured succession planning can be in larger jurisdictions. Now, let's hear from Kaitlyn Montez from the city of West Sacramento and how her team is building internal pipelines and advancing talent development with limited resources and what practical steps agencies of any size can start taking today. Kaitlyn?
Thank you, Morgan. As he said, I'm Kaitlyn Montez. I am currently the HR supervisor for the city of West Sacramento. And this topic is especially important to me as I go over, building our entry-level talent, developing it through our internal leadership academy, while taking kind of a budget conscious approach to it, because I actually started as an intern for the city of Woodland, and now am participating in our city's reimagined leadership academy. So I'm kind of living what we are doing, and which is why I'm just heavily invested in this topic. So next slide. So as everybody has shared in this presentation, we all are experiencing the same concerns, whether you're from a large agency, whether you're in a special district, you're in a county, or a small city like myself. So in my presentation, I'm going to be sharing how the city of West Sacramento specifically created an entry-level pipeline, how we now are 10 years into that leadership, our internship program, and how we're now developing that talent through our leadership academy. And again, taking a budget-conscious approach as we all experience limited resources when we are wanting to do these programs. So next slide. So many local governments struggle with providing specific and sufficient career advancement opportunities, which often leads to employees looking elsewhere. We're competing with larger agencies, especially in West Sacramento. Many people don't even know our organization is its own city. They often find that we are the city of Sacramento. And so we really struggle with kind of name recognition and being able to recruit against those much larger agencies. And so back in 2015, coming from the top down with our city manager at the time, we really had a need for creating an effective strategy to bring people into our organization and then also get them to stay. So next slide. So with our summer steps, that is our 8-week city internship program. And STEPS stands for Strides Towards Entering Public Service. And this, again, is the desire for the city to invest in our future workforce and build a pipeline to reduce dependency on competing in the external job market, because a lot of times we don't have that ability to. So we had a desire to develop in-house talent, reduce onboarding time, and build a loyalty to the city, and want our entry-level positions to want to stay and grow their career with us. So again, this is an 8-week program where student interns have the ability to come into our organization and work 8 hours a day, often giving them their first experience with what an actual career will look like. Each of our 9 departments here at the city has the ability to hire 2 interns per summer. And they're not just job shadowing, they're not just filing. These interns are producing real products. They're able to work on staff reports. As you can see from many of the pictures in this presentation, they get an opportunity to go each week, look at what our different departments do and how the specific roles that they play is in support of our larger city operations. And so at the end of the 8 weeks, our interns often leave with significant civic knowledge, professional insight, and in many cases, a future job path, because they don't always know that local government is the career for them. A lot of times, when we're competing with the private sector, they have the ability to get out to these students, whether it's at college career fairs or things like that, really what they focus on. And many of them don't necessarily necessarily grow up knowing that local government has the things that maybe they're looking for out of a career. You know, we have water treatment, we have government relations, graphic services. A lot of times those are things that you have to go to the private sector to be able to have. And so by doing this kind of widespread approach at our city and giving each of the interns an opportunity to go see what all of those other departments do, it could, again, help shape their career path to see maybe what is different. Next slide, please. So a couple years ago, after we did such a great job of nurturing this internal or entry-level talent, we realized that we didn't have employees that were really ready to take on that next step. We had leadership, management opportunities, and many times we were having to recruit from the outside, which then, similar to the issues we had competing for entry-level talent, we are now competing for leadership, management level talent. And due to pension changes, obviously issues surrounding compensation, we just were not competitive about that because we were not doing a good enough job of now nurturing that entry level talent and turning that into management level roles. And so what the city did, next slide, please, is bring back our reimagined Leadership Academy. So these were all things that our organization did prior to the economic downturn in 2008. And I'm sure, like many other organizations, a lot of those really successful initiatives got put on the side because all of our organizations were just really trying to make sure we survived the economic downturn. And so with the reimagined Leadership Academy, one of the things that we advocated for is to make sure that it wasn't just geared towards current managers. I'm sure in all of our organizations, there is an ability to identify future leaders. And so this Leadership Academy is open to all city employees. And so we are currently in our first cohort. And we have employees from every single different employee group, whether they are a manager, whether they've only been at our organization for a year in a non-management role, they are able to participate in that. And some of the content that we're going over is how to grow your supervisory skills, conducting performance evaluations, strategic communication, and collaboration. And we're really hoping that it's going to allow us in the future, once we do have those internal management roles, to be able to look from within and pick from leaders that we already have within our organization. Next slide, please. I apologize. Next slide. So again, like many of our organizations are experiencing, the budget always seems to be the most prevalent factor in developing these internal programs. We at the city have, because this has been advocated from the top down, it financially has always been prioritized during the budget process. And so fortunately, when we are talking with each of our departments, the allocation of the budget for them to have these interns is not paid for out of their department. We found prior to doing that many of the departments were hesitant to participate in our internship program because they just didn't have the budget capacity to do that. So when we removed that issue from them, we found that it allowed all of them to participate. But I know that many organizations maybe don't have that ability to identify funding for that. And so through strategic partnerships, like with ILG, with other entities that are out there are grant funding available. I believe it was our second year of doing summer steps. We actually had over 50% of the program paid for due to a grant that we received from ILG. So there are collaborative partnerships that many of our organizations, whether it's other nonprofits, private entities, to kind of create solutions that will help address those financial constraints. Next slide. So a little bit more on leveraging those partnerships. That can be in multiple, not just receiving grants, but many of our local community colleges, as well as four-year colleges, have partnerships available to allow organizations to give meaningful work to student interns, and that does not come at a cost for your organization. We've partnered with a couple of our different local school districts to have student interns placed within our organization. And typically there's, guidelines and things like that, but it allows, if building an internal program is not something that can be sustained by your organization, there is an ability for you to source interns directly from other means. Also through intermunicipal cooperations. I know our large county, Yolo County, has reached out to us because they are wanting to start a program, and they were inquiring about how we can maybe join forces and blend our resources so it's not as heavy of a burden for one organization, but still be able to give each of the interns a very broad scope of how local governments all work together. Next steps. Next slide, please. So what can effective succession planning look like with limited resources? There are, again, many strategies, and I think ILG is a great partner in doing those because many of our organizations, we don't have the ability to reinvent the wheel. And so being able to work together with partnerships and just shows the importance of what succession planning looks like. Next slide. So obviously, I just showed what our real world example looks like here at the city. And through our Summer Steps program, we have hired over 15 of our previous Summer Steps interns into full-time roles here at the city. And that does not count the large number who have left our organization with full-time job offers from other, whether it's municipal governments or in the private sector, based on the experience that they were able to take from us. Also with our Leadership Academy, I believe one of our first Summer Steps intern that was hired 10 years ago, who is now in a management role, is attending also our Leadership Academy. So this just shows that these strategies work when you do invest internally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaitlyn, and to all our panelists for sharing such insightful information today. We've now heard a range of perspectives, from big picture leadership to department level implementation. With that, I would like to have our panelists join me on screen once again, and we'd love to open the floor for questions from our audience. If you haven't already, please feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A feature. We'll take as many as we can in the time we have remaining. Now, with that being said, there are some really good questions that have came in already, and one I would like to pose to the entire group to start it off. Now, this question came in and it asks, how best to provide professional development and opportunity in small cities where growth is limited? Kaitlyn, maybe you want to kick us off with this one, and then Lisa and Frank, if you want to chime in, that'd be great.
Yeah, so it is hard when oftentimes, you only have, whether it's one lead position or one management position, that the person has maybe been in there long term. And so I think having the ability to, whether it's job sharing or still provide other meaningful avenues with which the person can grow their skills and still be engaged, is beneficial. But there is also no perfect answer when there is still a limited avenue just based on the sheer number of what your size of the population of your organization.
I'd like to respond to that if I could. It's true that there are limited opportunities in small organizations, even medium-sized organizations, but there's ways to deal with that, particularly on a regional basis. The counties, the city manager associations in Santa Clara County and San Mateo County, they have convened for the last 15 years the Next Gen Silicon Valley Committee, which is made up of city managers, HR directors, department heads, and emerging leaders. And we have offered on a shared services basis a whole range of talent development programs, including a regional internship program where all, 50 agencies can post their internships on one job board, a management talent exchange program where people can exchange talent so they get new experiences on a 3-month basis, a regional management fellows program to attract recent graduates from master's programs into our local governments, and also an annual Tomorrow's Department Head Forum where we begin to prepare aspiring leaders so they could move up into department head positions. So you can form a next-gen committee on a regional basis and then share resources as was suggested to develop these programs. Another model is San Mateo County has taken the lead to develop a regional training consortium. I can allow her in a moment to tell us a little bit about that. And a third model is in the Bay Area. I've been involved with 5 different regions that have formed a leadership academy on a regional basis. So we have one in Santa Clara County, Alameda County, Contra Costa County, Sacramento Valley, as well as our newest leadership academy in Marin, Sonoma counties. So that's another, maybe a small community cannot afford to develop their own leadership academy, but on a regional basis, they can do that. Lisa, perhaps you'd like to tell us a little bit about the training consortium.
Sure, we have a training consortium. The county coordinates it, but with the neighboring cities within San Mateo County. So the participants, the consortium has access to our learning and development programs and us to theirs. And they also, in addition, have supervisory academies and a host of other leadership academies. Certainly I can send more information about that. But the other thing I wanted to just add too is work out of class opportunities is always a great option. You know, there might be limited leadership roles, but when they are gone, say for a long period of time, perhaps somebody can step into that role so that they can get that experience. And MTAP, the one that Frank was mentioning, it's a great opportunity to also discover other counties and other jurisdictions and do a role that's outside what you normally do so that you can discover maybe other things that you really are interested in. So just a couple of things I wanted to share.
Awesome. Now, Lisa, this question was directed towards you, and I think it kind of ties in with what you were just speaking. But you mentioned partnering with other jurisdictions or learning from them. But what are some creative strategies government agencies are implementing for employee retention?
Employee retention. Well, we have it's an ongoing review here in the county. We do have a high retention rate, knock on wood. I think our retention, our turnover rate is at 10%. We have retention issues in not key, but certain classifications like social workers, law enforcement, which are like high burnt out classifications. And it's also hard to fill positions. But what we've been doing is working closely with departments. You know, it's not just revamping recruitment and making sure you're attracting, you know, diversified group of applicants, but also just reviewing kind of your process for onboarding them, making sure that you're doing it right from the very get-go of introducing them to the organization. And again, the whole concept of hiring people who understand and support the mission that we are here for. And also working with departments on well-being and wellness support, looking at, you know, compensation is another aspect, but as to Frank's point, it's not the only thing that would solve or that would ensure retention, but it's always a good opportunity to just review where you are in the market and kind of have discussions around pay transparency and pay equity, and certainly making sure that you are consistent across the board. I think retention strategies depend on the job that you are trying to retain, and it really does depend on the organization and what your capacity is. But we know that we want to retain folks because they agree to them, you know, they find purpose to the work that they're doing, and that they find opportunities, whether it's sideways or upwards in the organization. And then also, of course, all the other stuff such as wellness and health benefits and all that kinds of benefits that you would want to extend out. I hope that answers your question, Morgan.
Yeah, no, I think it does. Thank you, Lisa. Now that kind of brings me to the next question that I saw come up. And you mentioned compensation, and Kaitlyn, maybe you can jump in here, and then Lisa, you as well. How should smaller organizations or jurisdictions on limited budgets approach succession planning?
I think surrounding the compensation topic, one of the things that we're doing is trying to get creative with our benefits offerings. So we have been annually surveying our employees that aren't in a represented group, at least, who don't have the avenue for collective bargaining. But we've been surveying them to allow them to have input in how we make up our compensation, because it's not just base pay. So we've been adding more voluntary benefits, as well as a new benefit that we have that's called career enhancement and wellness reimbursement, where employees can get $1,000. So it's non-PERSable. So the money does go a little bit farther for our organization, but it allows them to get reimbursed for things for them to, maybe it's not something that's specifically related to their job, but they want to grow in some professional development capacity that their departments don't have budget for, if it's not kind of a required thing. But also on the wellness side, whether it's gym memberships, sports equipments, things outside that of our EAP that is in there, they can get reimbursed for that on an annual basis. And I think that's one of like the best benefits that we have added, that we have gotten direct feedback from our employees that is substantial for them and matters to them. So I think just kind of talking with your employees, getting their feedback and seeing how you can implement that back in your organization, because it doesn't always have to be around a financial aspect for it.
I'd like to provide a contrary view here. Talent development is the cheapest thing we do. It doesn't cost a lot of money to put somebody in an interim position or an acting position, provide a job rotation, whatever it is, a stretch assignment. That is the most powerful way to develop people, and it doesn't cost that money. I mean, compare talent development efforts to our capital projects, new technology, opening up a new facility, adding people to positions to the budget. Those cost money. Talent development takes political will, it takes attention, it takes some planning, but it's pretty cheap.
Yeah. You do have to appeal to the employee's desire to develop. I think innately you have employees that are looking to move around in the organization or to develop skills. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean they'd want an allowance to be paid to sort of do that. Maybe there's a committee that they would want to be participating in. Even just a simple informational interview with a manager to understand, what their role is and kind of help them understand, is this the type of positions that I'm looking to get to? I think those are all could be strategies for succession planning. And as far as partnerships with cities or maybe a larger county next to you, you could avail with discussions and partnerships, you could avail with the classes that they have. That's the idea of sort of the consortium that we're running, right? So that we don't have to recreate. If there's a class in this city, a leadership class or a developmental class that is really, well attended, perhaps they could extend that to us, maybe for a small fee or maybe for free as part of a partnership or a tit for tat, like you get our students into this class, you will get your students into this class. And so it's all about partnership, I think, and leveraging what is already existing outside, and perhaps you can tap into it if you really don't have the budget to recreate an academy or a leadership academy. Mm-hmm.
Great. Now, I do want to just mention we have a lot of questions coming in, and we will try our best to answer as many as possible, but it might not be possible in the time we have here. Now, with that being said, we might be able to answer these questions in the follow-up email we'll send later. Now, in regards to talent development, Frank, that you're speaking about, do you have any strategies to help existing employees share in the passion of growing future employees? Things like taking on interns, being open to coaching and growing people below them, and open to growing, changing outdated processes.
And so as I understand the question, what can existing employees do to help accelerate the development of other people?
Correct.
Okay. A number of organizations, because coaching is so critical, not just learning by doing, but coupling it with coaching. A lot of organizations have developed coaching programs, which again are very cheap because the coaches are volunteers and they use existing employees. It takes a little orientation and training, but not much, to set up a coaches gallery or a cadre of coaches, and then to match them up with other folks. So that's a pretty cheap and and the current employees, it's not only development for the coachees, it's development for the coaches. Coaches learn how to coach. It's a great skill. And the other thing is that coaches love to coach. It's energizing and refreshing and motivating, self-motivating for the coaches. So a lot of organizations like San Mateo County have developed coaching programs. It's a great way to involve your ongoing current resources in terms of succession development. Another thing we mentioned, onboarding, also new supervisors or new managers. Other organizations have created buddy programs. So somebody coming into the organization gets a buddy to figure out how things work, how we do things around here. Somebody who moves into a first-time supervisor or first-time manager program can also get either a coach or a peer buddy to help them navigate those new positions. So those, again, are very easy, simple efforts that can really support your talent development efforts.
Yeah, the Institute for Local Government implemented a buddy program here, and it was really helpful when I was brought on. Now, Frank, these existing employees have institutional knowledge, right? And that's knowledge that might be lost when an employee leaves. So how would you say is the best way to capture that institutional knowledge in a manner that is actually usable?
Okay. Well, there's a number of ways of capturing knowledge before it walks out the door as people leave. One way is to create a sort of a in-house yellow pages of expertise. And so if you want to find out about a certain topic, you go to it's typically online, you go to the online yellow pages and you find your expert. And another way is creating a little in-house Wikipedia so experts would share some of their knowledge on the online platform, and you preserve that knowledge before they leave. Another way is in Palo Alto, when I was city manager there, we created a series of videotapes. And so we picked experts in the organization and we trained some people to interview them on the video and ask them questions and sort of extract from them key information, key expertise, which was then available again online to anybody in the organization. So there's a variety of ways to capture institutional knowledge, but as Erica mentioned at the beginning, you're not only losing some talent as they walk out, boy, but that institutional knowledge is absolutely critical.
Thank you. Now, Lisa, maybe you can speak about how we can translate that institutional knowledge into the role of, the younger entry-level staff and, helping fill that gap. Like, what is San Mateo County doing now?
If I understand your question correctly, how are we transferring knowledge from our more senior employees down to our entry level newbies into the organization? I think a lot of it is involving them in the decision making, job shadowing, as best you can, right? Making it transparent what each of the roles are in the organization or within the unit at least, so that you have an understanding of, you know, what is my role in context to all the other individuals in the unit's roles are. And then you can kind of pique curiosity and interest in learning what those roles are, and then begin sort of this, you know, this, even a buddy system could start from there, but also just this whole concept of understanding what the others are doing and kind of starting to learn and gravitate towards learning what that individual is doing. We have a retiree skills bank, so that if we were needing somebody to coach a new hire into the role, we could tap into some of our retirees and maybe they come back for a few hours to either train that individual or provide coaching for that individual. In some positions, not just in the executive level, but maybe not so much in entry level, but it happens to. We do what we call double filling, so that you know, you might double fill the position for 3 months. 3 months before the outgoing leaves, you hire somebody in so that they have 3 months to learn from each other about what these next steps are going to be, or you know, how to do the job and how to capture that knowledge that resides with that outgoing individual. In general, in the county, we encourage conversations right around what is it that you're doing, and learning and soliciting interest in learning other jobs, just so you're not static in what it is that you're doing. And in that way, you know, you can gain access and entry into some of these other roles that down the line may be of interest to you.
Great. That kind of leads me to my next question, and this might be for everybody, so please jump in. For jurisdictions that have staff with great institutional knowledge retiring in the next 3 years, what are some more strategies that they can do now with the limited time they have?
This is for people who are going to be leaving, or other people who want to capture their the person's institutional knowledge?
It looks like the question's being posed as people retiring in the next 3 years.
Okay, well, several strategies. One is double filling the position, and they do this in San Mateo County on a limited basis. I'll let Lisa respond to that, but the basic notion is towards the end of somebody's tenure and knowing that somebody will be retiring, they double fill the position, which costs some money, but that person is it's a sort of a peer training program. So they basically learn and grow into the position. So that's one way of doing it. Again, if you have identified, if you've gone through a recruitment process earlier than later, you can also use the soon-to-be retired person as a formal or informal coach for the new person. That's another way. The other way is to spend, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and incorporate into the soon-to-be retired person's work plan, capturing some key information that can then be passed on to the person who eventually takes over that position. All of which requires that people, you get a good idea of who's going to be retiring. And a lot of agencies do sort of an organizational assessment, and they begin to identify who is likely to retire given their ages. And in some cases, they have conversations with those people about, again, in the next year or two, if you're contemplating retirement, how can you add value to somebody who may be replacing you, and how can we use you in a productive way to capture that information and expertise?
Morgan, if I could add, it's also in my presentation, I mentioned about embedding coaching and development into a supervisor or a manager's role, so that you're having this ongoing conversations and you're hinting earlier on if, you know, what someone's plans are, and also hinting earlier on who's got the skill sets and potentially the interest in moving into these positions. I guess it goes back to, if you're just starting now with succession planning, yes, it would be sort of a reactive approach, but over time it should be a sort of like an ongoing thing, so that you're not in the situation where now you just have a few months left before you can replace somebody that's outgoing. And, you know, as a supervisor, I certainly remember, you know, when I got hired into my recent role, one of the expectations handed down to me was you have to identify a succession. You have to prepare a succession plan. You have to be ready to identify talent that can step into your role. I don't know how many HR folks are on the call, but as you all know, in HR, classification and compensation is probably the least favorite discipline in HR. Very few class and comp talent out there. And so it's kind of like, well, you better start now. You have many more years before you retire, but it's time to start growing and training folks and making them interested in the role, so that when that time happens, I've also transferred the knowledge, but I've also identified talent that can step in.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Now we have about 4 minutes left on this Q&A, so I do have a final question for everybody on the panel. As we conclude in our final minutes, what is one tangible step each of our municipalities can take this week to advance robust succession planning within our public sector organizations?
I mean, I would just say to start thinking about it. You know, nothing is going to change if you don't do anything about it. So whether it's a small program that could be scaled later on, or whether you're very ambitious and you start big with it, sort of like our organization did, starting is the first step.
I would say go to the Cal ICMA webpage for Talent Initiative, pick one of the 4 talent development tools and begin to experiment with it. I mean, the tools are already developed. It could be starting some stay interviews, doing a little pilot beta test on stay interviews. It could be completing a menu of development opportunities that is customized for your agency. That's very simple. It could be deciding at the executive team level that we're going to have some talent discussions. So those are all, you just take the tool and you apply it to your agency.
Mine would be to get a good grasp of your organization and your workforce. Start with your metrics. How are you, you know, what is your retention strategy? What's your turnover rate? What's your vacancy rate? Where are your vacancies? You have to understand where where your holes are going to be. And I guess make a commitment. You have to make a commitment to establish a succession planning program. If there's no commitment from the top down, then you're never going to, you know, succeed with your strategies.
Well, thank you for those useful, actionable steps they can take today to get succession planning at the forefront of their thoughts. Now, with that being said, our Q&A portion is done, but we do have a few more slides I would like to just kind of go over. So if we can click on to the next slide. Now, we have additional resources that we'll be sending out with the presentation. Okay, so all the resources mentioned today will be emailed out with the slide deck later this week or early next week. Okay, now next slide, please. Now, in case you would like to follow up with any of us after the webinar, here's our contact info. Again, this information is going to be sent out in a slide deck as well. In that email, we will try our best to answer any additional questions that we have time for. Now, before we close, I do want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our panelists for their time and insight today. Now, Frank, thank you for sharing your leadership wisdom and for helping us with our succession planning, or as you named it, succession development, as a proactive and strategic opportunity. We're especially grateful to have Cal ICMA represented on the ILG board, especially with your continued partnership. It's really invaluable. Lisa, thank you for grounding today's conversation in strategies and real-world application. San Mateo County has long been a steward of innovation and sustainability in local government. You all have earned a Silver Beacon Award back in 2015 and continuing to set an example through initiatives like the ones you shared today. And Kaitlyn, thank you for reminding us what's possible with limited resources and a lot of heart. We appreciate the City of West Sacramento's ongoing collaboration with ILG, and especially your impactful work through the Summer Steps internship program, helping students explore career in public services. We're honored to work alongside each of you in strengthening the future of local government. Now, with that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon. If you would like to stay in contact, if we can move to the next slide, please. You can follow us on our social media. You can sign up for our newsletter, our LinkedIn, or follow us on Facebook. Next slide, please. And like I said, the recording will be available and related resources with you all within the next several days. So please look forward for it in your email inbox. With that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and enjoy your lunch. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.